So yeah, this is going to be a hands-on tutorial. It doesn't matter if you're not a developer or you've never even put your hands on a CLI, a command line interface. This is a set of tutorials and a set of options designed for anyone who wants to really put together and get a concrete idea of what is IPFS. It is called IPFS 101, Hands-On with IPFS, because I really want you to put these concepts together of what is IPFS, what are all these abstract big words that we're talking about up here on stage. This workshop is going to be run by 4 facilitators. Myself, Enal Alvarez, Katie Waro, and Marco Rodriguez. As you guys are working, they're going to be coming around the room and helping you get unstuck and helping you take the next step to actually getting your hands on and understanding what is IPFS. They work with me on a really great team called Launchpad, and what we do is we onboard people in the Protocol Labs network into our network, and we're also looking for new developers, builders, and contributors that want to help contribute to Protocol Labs Web3 initiatives. So, our agenda for this workshop, I'm going to talk to you about the purpose. We're going to talk to you about workshop choices. It doesn't matter what kind of user you are or are going to be. You're going to have 2 choices for where to get your hands on, and we'll talk a little bit about those. We're going to talk about the resources that you can use for this hands-on workshop. And then we're going to have a little bit of awkward silence while we all work and get our hands on IPFS. All right, so you might have heard this phrase over and over again. It's a choose your own adventure. I don't know if any of you are also 90s kids, but I read these fantastic books growing up called Choose Your Own Adventure. You don't go through this in a linear fashion. You get to choose what happens. Sometimes something really fun happens. Sometimes you get eaten by a dragon. Just like this, we're going to be giving you resources, things to read, things to do, and we have an indication of what the next step could be for you. It is up to you to choose your own adventure, and we have our facilitators walking around to help you with that. So, this workshop is different from other workshops. You must use all of your numerous talents and much of your enormous intelligence. The wrong decision won't result in death, I hope. But we have people to help you, and hopefully what it'll result in is you getting a more concrete understanding of what are some of these things that we're talking about. There's one difference. Don't let your friends get a game over. Don't let them get eaten by a dragon. Ask for help with people around you, share resources, and explore together. All right, so there's four main choices for where you can start your own adventure. You can explore the IPFS Desktop. What that is a desktop client. It allows you to do things like add files to IPNS, start to understand what these hard things are just using a desktop client. If you are familiar with the command line interface, you can, but you have not yet used IPFS, there is some materials to help you install the IPFS command line interface, and from there, there's lots of adventures to go on. If you already have IPFS CLI installed, but you're still working to put together some of those concepts, you can explore the IPFS CLI with the tutorial I provide. There are also more that Ryan mentioned in the IPFS docs. Last, but certainly not least, for those of you who are builders and developers and want to get started on implementing IPFS, we have a boilerplate IPFS app. We also have something set up in a virtual developer environment that you can use to build an IPFS application. So, you choose where you start. First thing, all our materials are on curriculum.pl-launchpad.io. You choose your pace and the direction. If you want to start with the desktop and then get buried in an article, fantastic. It's up to you. Help your friends level up. The best kind of activities I've seen is where people can work together with one another. We're here to kind of build a sense of community in Web3, and the most important part of that is building a network of connections between humans, mentorship, and people who can help others. All right, so the tutorials are, again, on the Launchpad curriculum website. If you get past those and you want to keep exploring more, there are tutorials on docs.ipfs.tech. Pretty sure I'm on my cell phone, so we're good. All right. We'll see if we can get some people with internet. That's why we have, if you guys are my facilitators, can you guys walk around and see if you can help some people get going? If you have a hotspot on your phone, take out your phone, hotspot. It's been working great for me. That's what I'm using. I apologize for the internet. That is my #1 nemesis, is a bad network. I wish there was a tool that we had to fix this problem. All right. So when you get to the IPFS curriculum, when you get to the curriculum page, you should see 4 sections. This is something that we use in our Launchpad onboarding. We have 2 types of content in there. They're notated with different things. There's lectures. You can read about it if that's what you so choose to do, but we have 4 tutorials, which will be our focus. You'll notice that on the learning platform, in the top right-hand corner, there's a toggle that says shallow and deep. That's because we're starting to design content that is designed per persona. Right now, we just have 2 personas, which is a shallow dive and a deep dive persona. And different tutorials will show up depending on what you toggle on. If you are a shallow dive person, you'll see 3 tutorials available: the IPFS Desktop tutorial, the IPFS command line interface setup, and the IPFS command line basics tutorial. If you toggle it to the deep dive, you'll see 1 extra thing show up and the desktop will disappear, which is the IPFS API. And what that is a tutorial on how to use a boilerplate app to use IPFS in a golang application. First one you can look at is the IPFS Desktop tutorial. As you can see in each of these, they're split up into sections, and there's a video. The video will show you step by step. A lot of times there's little things that happen as you're doing something with tech that is really hard to capture in everything that you write. But if you look at the video and then you look at the sections on the right-hand side, they're directly aligned. If you get stuck on, say, the settings page in this tutorial, there should also be a section in the video that will show you these things. In the IPFS Desktop tutorial, you'll install the latest version of IPFS Desktop, explore the different pages or views that are on that app. There's status, files, explore, peers, and settings pages. You'll connect to a peer. You can choose a peer to connect to. You can choose a different IPFS gateway, which is essentially just a way to connect the IPFS network with the typical HTTP internet. You can also publish and share a file with an IPNS address, which is a mutable link to a record. The videos, as I said, are broken up into little sections with headings.
It'll launch up.
And this one was made by Discordian.
From here.
You can skip through and find whatever works best for you. And this is a great one for those of you who aren't necessarily developers but want to put some of these concepts together. The next option is the CLI command line interface setup. Again, if you go down a little bit, there is a video and there are sections. There are sections in that video that go along with this. This is where you're going to set up and install the command line interface. In this one, you will install Kubo, which is the Go IPFS implementation. You're going to initialize an IPFS node that lets you communicate to other IPFS nodes in here, even if our internet isn't working great. Start and run an IPFS, and stop or kill an IPFS node. If you already have IPFS installed, but maybe need and again, there's a video with how to do this. It's done on a Linux machine. If you have a Mac, it's very similar. It is divided into sections that are the same as are in the written tutorial. The third option is the IPFS CLI tutorial, so you already have it installed and you want to start exploring it. It is in the deep or shallow toggle. In this one, you will start and stop an IPFS node. Oh, typo. See your peers, read, cat an IPFS file, download an IPFS file to your local machine, add a file to your from IPFS from your local machine, list pin files on your node, inspect a DAG, pin a file on IPFS to your own IPFS node. And some of these concepts, you kind of need to get your hands on to understand that it's a little bit different than our client-server model of file sharing. And then you can list the type of pinned files on your IPFS node. Again, there's a video that goes through all of these steps. So if you get stuck, you can see exactly what is typed in there, exactly the steps that are taken, and they're broken up by section that correlate to what's in that tutorial. Another option is if you get past this, we have the IPFS. I hope that is somebody that got IPFS running. I don't know. Another option is to get use the IPFS docs tutorials, which allow you to dig in a lot deeper to some of the capabilities of that command line interface. Last but not least, we have a boilerplate golang application, which was created by our very own Eno Alvarez, who works on the Launchpad team as a Web3, we call him a Web3 platform application developer. This is a deep dive for those of you who are a little bit familiar with Go, and even if you're not, it's very doable. In this, you're going to clone or fork a boilerplate Go app. We also have a Git pod option. I'll go into that in a second. You're going to use the API to create functions in the app. So essentially what we're going to do is add into the app the same things that you can do into the CLI. You can add a file to IPFS, read an IPFS file, download a file, publish a file, retrieve an IPNS record, and then at the very end, run the code. Again, this has a video. It's broken up into sections that correlate to what's written in there with some very clear directions, sort of what are the functions in here, what applications do you go to, where do you go, where do you add the code, where did I make a typo? You can look in here because it has the solution. You can find, and I'll put all these links up at the end, you can find this at github.com/protocol/launchpad-tutorials. The really cool thing about this is if you scroll down to the bottom, there's something called Git pod, and what Git pod is basically a Docker container. It has Go installed, it has the latest version of Kubo installed. If your internet isn't working good enough to install these things or fork something, you can use this in a web IDE, and I'm going to see if that'll work. So, essentially what you're going to do is you go down to here, and let's see how well my internet is working right now. You open it in Git pod, you don't have to install any dependencies, and what it's going to do is spin up a web version of VS Code where you can start trying this out. Go back to that in a second. So, what I want you to do now, pick. Are you going to explore IPFS Desktop? Take those laptops out. Do you need to install the IPFS command line interface? Are you going to explore the IPFS command line interface? Or are you ready to implement IPFS in a Golang application? See if it's ready. Not quite yet. All right. So it's time for me to have a somewhat awkward silence, and we're going to spend about 20 minutes walking around and allowing all of you to explore IPFS in whatever way works for you. All right, that was fantastic. Just wanted to wrap up a little bit with inviting everybody to talk to me a little bit more. The link at the top, ovou.me/linspl, will open up a web browser where you can book office hours with me, get a hold of me on Twitter, GitHub, all the good things. And I would love to talk to each and every one of you about your experiences where you had pain points so we can make it better for everybody. I really, really, really want to invite people to reach out and talk and get involved with us. There are flyers on a lot of the tables that also say get involved. What this curriculum is a piece of an offering that we have for the Protocol Labs network called the Launchpad program. It lasts for 6 weeks. It consists of 3 weeks of intense sort of async learning. We go through the curriculum and activities like this. We have QA sessions with really exciting projects, core engineers that help us out and are very passionate about sharing the amazing things that they are doing. We do a one-week in-person Colo week where we get together, we learn about each other's projects, we present, And we help each other the way that we helped each other today, getting hands-on and learning more about these technologies. And then the last 2 weeks, once everybody's connected, we give you time to hack, work on a project that you might have already started, but hopefully have given you the ability to take off into Web3 and do amazing things together. And then we present it to the network. So it's a really great way to get connected, get to know people, and start being a part of Web3. So to learn more about Launchpad, how to get involved, you can contact me. There are very colorful flyers on the tables. We'll probably put more out. That's a blog post telling you a little bit more about the program. And don't be shy. It was great to meet all of you, and amazing work.